Maybe you're here because something has stalled. Not a single event, not a clear tragedy, but a quiet exhaustion, like your soul has dozed off while still standing. You wake up, brush your teeth, go through the motions of the day, yet nothing really shifts inside. Maybe it started on an overcast Tuesday. You looked out the window before heading to work and thought, is this it? Every day like this? No one answered. Not the sky, not the mirror, not the flood of messages on your phone. There's a bitter irony in feeling lost in a world overflowing with paths. We've never had so much access, so many choices, so many voices telling us how to live better. But that's where the paradox lies. When everything is possible, nothing feels quite enough. And so you freeze, like a browser with 38 tabs open, none of them really loading. You try, you study, you work, you distract yourself, but everything dissolves into a kind of existential fatigue that no amount of coffee can fix. Barry Schwartz called it the paradox of choice. When faced with too many options, we lose our ability to decide, and with it, our sense of direction. In a world that worships freedom, we're left to improvise meaning without a map, as if it's somehow our fault not to know what we want to be by 30 or 40 or 50. It's cruel in a quiet way. No one warned us that excess can become its own kind of prison. A silent, golden cage where we ourselves hold the keys. Maybe you're wondering, so what now? I don't have formulas, but I can offer a simple gesture, something small that might bring a thread of order to the chaos. Choose one thing, just one. It can be small, it might even seem trivial, but treat it as sacred. A daily walk, writing by hand, watering a plant, sitting in stillness at 5 p.m. Because when we choose something with intention, no matter how simple, we begin to restore shape to the world. And in those shapes, the soul remembers how to breathe. The promise was simple: study, graduate, find a good job. In time, it would all make sense, but the days arrived, and with them, only a lingering sense of surviving your own life. You wake up with the alarm already blaring in your mind before your eyes even open. You get up, brew the coffee, cross the city. Sit in a chair you didn't choose, attend meetings that feel foreign, reply to emails with sentences that don't sound like yours. There's no breakdown, no tears, no crisis, just a slow, quiet draining, like an invisible leak extinguishing the fire inside. Some call it boredom, others exhaustion, but deep down, it's grief. Grief for the person you thought you'd become. In between tasks, you check your phone like someone searching for a portal out. And there they are, people smiling, traveling, building brands out of their lives. Meanwhile, you're frozen in a white room under fluorescent light, typing out a report no one will actually read. The world that promised meritocracy demands your full presence, but offers no meaning in return. As if working hard were enough to make life align. As if failure were always your fault, for lacking focus or faith or fire. It's a cruel theater. We pretend to be fine because everyone else is pretending too. We smile in elevators, nod politely. Return home with the sense that nothing is truly ours, not even our time. If you feel like crying for no reason or laughing and not knowing why, maybe you're not breaking. Maybe you're just trying to stay human in a world that no longer knows how to hold humanity. And strangely, that realization might be the beginning of something, because there's power in acknowledging the collapse. In the breaking, there's room for rebuilding, not perfectly, but honestly. The body speaks through fatigue, the soul through silence, and when both speak in unison, it's a sign that something must change, and even if we don't yet know what. Some silences hurt more than harsh words, like when you share a sorrow and the answer is quick, tidy, impersonal. You'll get through it. Everyone feels that way. Stay strong, God bless. But what you really wanted was for someone to pause, to look you in the eye and say, I see you. Depression doesn't scream. It settles in the crevices of ordinary life. In dinner tables gone quiet, in weekends without invitations, in the messages that never come. You can be surrounded by people, at work, in family, online, and still feel utterly unseen, as if you've been slowly fading, becoming more and more transparent. Some friendships dissolve without warning. Others become hollow rituals, meetups where everything is said except what really matters. And in moments like these, emotional isolation becomes a labyrinth. You want to be found, but you can't seem to call out. Then comes the well-meaning but disconnected advice: you need more faith. Try a church. As if spirituality were a prescription, as if deep sorrow meant a lack of gratitude. What no one tells you is that pain too can be sacred, that suffering is not weakness, it's contact. Contact with a part of you that's asking for presence, not repair. And there is beauty in that, in pain that isn't rushed, in mourning that isn't denied. In solitude that teaches who truly stays, not out of duty but from truth. Real love doesn't fix, it accompanies. It doesn't tell you what to feel. It asks, how's your heart today? And sometimes that's enough to make it through one more day. What's the point of all this? The question comes out of nowhere, while you're doing the dishes, waiting for the bus, smiling at someone just to be polite. It's not a philosophical question, it's a held-in scream, a whisper from deep inside. As if something tired of pretending has finally dared to question the entire script. The truth is, meaning doesn't come from the outside. There's no signpost, no manual, no expert with the answer wrapped up and ready. Sometimes meaning appears in a fleeting moment. Other times it's pieced together like a patchwork quilt, stitched from memories, pain, and longing. Reality, though it feels solid, is bendable. What you see, feel, and fear all pass through the lens of your story, your body, your wounds. And often, those lenses are fogged up by old voices. You're weak. You're too much. You'll never make it. These inner ghosts aren't trying to ruin you. They want to be heard. They're frozen versions of you trapped somewhere along the timeline, repeating themselves, hoping one day you'll pause and listen. Listening doesn't mean agreeing. It means acknowledging. Maybe the emptiness you feel isn't a flaw but a calling. A wide space where new stories might begin. A fertile ground for meanings not borrowed but discovered. There is something profoundly healing in admitting we don't know, that we're searching, and that the search itself is a sign of life. In that light, sensitivity isn't a weakness, it's a compass. It points to what still matters, even when everything feels dark. And sometimes that's where we first glimpse meaning, thin as a sliver of light beneath a closed door. One day, almost by accident, you find an old notebook. You flip through the pages, and there it is, a drawing you made years ago. Simple, naive, but curious. You didn't know how to shade, or how to get the proportions right. But there was something honest in that uneven line. Something that no longer fits into your scheduled days. Maybe life is like an unfinished drawing, and when we try to understand everything all at once, it all becomes a blur. But when we focus on just one line at a time, a shape begins to form, a figure, a meaning. Children draw because they want to see the world again, through their own lens. Adults often forget this, forget that the point isn't to get the perfect image, but to be bold enough to make the first mark. The metaphor isn't about art, it's about breaking things down, chipping the darkness into digestible pieces. Naming the shadows, shrinking the pain by understanding where it comes from. You don't need to redraw your whole life, but you can choose one part, one habit, one relationship, one memory, and look at it like someone trying to decode a sketch. In psychology, they call this cognitive restructuring, but in daily life it's simply learning to see from a new angle, to reinterpret what once felt like failure as an attempt, a trace of effort, not defeat. And slowly, what looked like chaos starts taking shape. This isn't about fixing everything. It's about recognizing the quiet beauty in what was scribbled in survival, on the days when all you had left was the will to try. Because when you begin to draw again, even if only within, some part of you remembers how to breathe. And in that private line, a new perspective may begin to emerge. Less about fitting in, more about expressing what's real. There comes a moment when even the mirror avoids your gaze. You see yourself, but you don't recognize the face looking back, as if you've collected so many versions of yourself that you no longer know which one is true. Psychology didn't come to explain you through diagrams. It came to give you language, a way to name what used to exist only as a vague ache in the body. Jung once said, "The soul does not heal through concepts, but through lived experience." And therapy, in that sense, is the place where your pain is allowed to exist, without disguise, without needing to justify itself, without the pressure to get better just to make someone else comfortable. It's where you begin to say, in trembling words, what you've only ever felt in silence. And in speaking it aloud, you realize there's a possible order within your mess. Not a rigid one, but an internal coherence that honors your story. Self-knowledge isn't glamorous. It's excavation work. It's looking inward with steadiness, but without judgment. It's understanding that not everything can be controlled, but that understanding in itself is already a form of liberation. We're always looking for answers. But in therapy, you begin to sit with the questions, and often they reveal more than any answer ever could. Why do I keep repeating this? Where is this anger really from? What am I trying to protect when I go quiet? These questions have no deadlines. They travel with you, sometimes whispering, sometimes screaming, but always guiding you gently toward what is real. And the most beautiful thing is this: you come to realize that you don't need to be fixed to be worthy of love. You only need to allow yourself to exist fully, with the parts in light and the ones still in shadow. We live in a constant storm of stimulation, notifications, opinions, demands. The mind is tugged like a frayed wire, stretched thin, always reacting. But there's a lost art in not responding, in the deliberate refusal to explain yourself, in the choice to not post, not reply, not fill the emptiness with noise. In this world, silence is resistance, not as escape, but as space. Space to feel what's alive within you before absorbing what's dying outside you. In a culture that measures worth by output, choosing stillness feels like failure. But maybe that's exactly where healing begins, in deciding not to produce, not to perform, not to consume, just to be. Imagine a whole hour with no input, no screens, no conversations, no pressure to think of something useful, not as a meditation technique, but as an act of gentle rebellion, a return to your original frequency. In that silence, emotions rise, memories return, but slowly the body relaxes, and the mind, once frantic, begins to hear something deeper. The child in you who never had time, the exhaustion of decades, the subtle longing to simply exist. At first it's hard. Boredom shows up like a ghost. But soon after comes a kind of reunion, as if for the first time in years you've come home to yourself. And in this inner home, there are no demands. Only one invitation: listen. Not to the world, not to others, but to the voice that's always been there, buried beneath the noise. Silence doesn't fix everything, but it may be the first fertile ground where true listening begins, and where, for once, you don't have to reply. Only breathe. After the fall comes the void, and in that suspended space where nothing makes sense, there lies a rare chance to begin again from somewhere new. It's not about getting up in a rush, as if pain were something to be ashamed of. This rising begins from the inside, from the values that endured, from memories that still hold meaning, from the quiet truths the world hasn't managed to erase. Real reconstruction isn't fast. It unfolds in layers. First comes exhaustion, then stillness, and only then a flicker of intention, a breath of clarity, a thought that whispers, "I still get to choose what I carry from here." We live under the tyranny of performance. We consume courses, hacks, and routines like their salvation. But deep down, we're not seeking efficiency. We're longing for meaning, for ease, for the feeling that being alive is already enough. And maybe clarity lives precisely there, in the refusal to keep carrying what was never yours. In the courage to unlearn what was forced upon you. In the honesty of saying, "I don't know," and still moving forward. The process isn't linear. Some days you take 2 steps forward and 4 back. Some mornings you wake up steady and go to bed in pieces. But every return, no matter how small, holds a thread of persistence, not the blind force of winning, but the quiet dignity of choosing to continue. And in that choice, imperfect, human, intimate, something rebuilds, not as it was, but as it can be now. Simpler, truer, yours. The light doesn't always return all at once. Sometimes it comes as a faint reflection on the wall from a place you can't yet see. And that's okay. Life doesn't ask for speed, only presence. If you've made it this far, maybe you're tired, maybe unsure, or maybe just quiet, like someone who heard something they can't quite name. That's more than enough. Because what we lack most isn't knowledge, it's a safe space to feel. A pause without guilt. A place where we don't have to pretend everything's fine. This video didn't come to fix you. It came to accompany you, like someone walking beside you down a dark street, holding a lantern, dim but steady. And if there's only one question left by the end, let it be this. What's the smallest act of care I can offer myself today? Maybe it's reading something that nourishes, maybe writing, unfiltered, maybe just closing your eyes for a few quiet minutes, without goal, without pressure. If you feel ready to keep going, there are doors still slightly open. Books like Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, Brief Answers to the Big Questions by Stephen Hawking, or Sophie's World by Jostein Gaarder. They won't hand you solutions, but they will offer new ways to see. And if someday you'd like to walk alongside others, there are spaces that listen, places for silence, for conversation, for honest exchange, without judgment. In the end, the message is simple. You are not alone. And even if everything feels unstructured now, a path is possible. One step at a time, one gesture at a time, one moment of presence at a time. Until next time, and may you treat your time like something sacred, because it is.